Hello and welcome back to On Point Wargaming. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different. I've put the brushes and the paints down and I want to show you all one of the greatest games ever made. Well, in my humble opinion anyway. So, the year was 1992 and I was a young whippersnapper fresh into gaming and was terribly painting some classic beaky marines. Yes folks, we're going back quite a bit. Anyway, I was at my local games club and our game of 40k had finished early, first edition Rogue Trader, and we had an hour or so to kill when someone produced a battered board game from the scenery cupboard. Intrigued, we learned the rules in about 10 minutes and we were soon arresting a bunch of colourful perps in Mega City 1. This was the Judge Dredd board game. Now the game was actually produced by Games Workshop in 1982. So it's quite an old game by today's standards, but we loved it. It was simple and fun and it portrayed the Judge Dredd 2000 AD universe really well. It became our game of choice every time a game of 40k had finished early, and even non-gamers that we showed it to really seemed to enjoy the game and get a lot from it. Last year I was able to pick up a copy of the game and for me it was just instant nostalgia. I absolutely love this game. So I thought I'd have a bit of a retro video and talk you through how the game plays, but also why I think it's absolutely fantastic. So, what do you get in the game? Well, it's a board game, so you get what you'd expect to find: playing pieces, dice, cards, and a board. Now, when I picked up my copy, I was absolutely blown away by the condition it was in. It doesn't look used at all. Absolute mint condition. So the game comes with 5 judge pieces and a individual judge card, sector cards, perp cards, crime cards and action cards, as well as a fold out board and a 3-page rulebook. That should give you an idea of how simple to grasp this game really is. Now the purpose of the game is that you are a judge in Mega City 1, represented by one of these small but actually quite detailed judge playing pieces. No glue or snap fit is required here, I assure you. Now you take turns to travel around Mega City 1 represented on the playing board, moving to different sectors and arresting perps for a whole manner of various and nefarious crimes. The aim is to arrest more perps than your opponents by the end of the game. Now you do this through a very simple combat system that uses action cards to buff attacks. Each perp and judge has a combat rating plus a roll of 1d6 with various modifiers. And to complete an arrest, you need to exceed the combat factor of the perp you're trying to arrest. The crime the perp is committing also has a score, and this is added. So, to determine the score you need to beat, you simply add the perp's combat factor, crime, and a roll of 1d6, plus any modifiers from the action cards. Now, perps don't get action cards, but other judges can use their action cards to increase the perp's score in an effort to scupper the arrest, put you in intensive care, and try and make the arrest themselves. It's good old-fashioned backstabbing fun. The perp and crime cards are placed face down, so you don't really know who you'll be coming up against. Will it be the Doomsday Dogs, or is it going to be Judge Death? It's a very simple, fast-paced game and a lot of fun. Anyway, let's run through an arrest. Okay, so welcome back. As you can see, the board is fully opened and it shows all the different sectors you'll be traveling around and traversing throughout Mega City 1 when making your arrests and bringing those evil criminals to street justice in the way that only judges can do. So on to a very basic term and how the combat system works. So I've arrived at the aggro dome, and what have I found? I found Rex pieces and he's committing the crime of selling old comic books. Now this is a heinous crime in anyone's book, I'm sure you can agree. Now Rex has a combat rating of 7, and the selling old comic books has a crime rating of 3. This gives him an overall rating of 10 plus whatever he rolls on his d6. Now let's say that Rex is lucky and he rolls a 5. This gives him a total overall score of 15. So on to the judge. Now as a judge I start with a combat rating of 5, so I'm 10 points down at this point. What I do now is I consult my action cards to see if I've got any options that I can use in here to buff or to modify my overall score. So the first card I will play is Laser Cutters, and this gives me an additional 4 to my combat roll. A great card, but I want to make sure I definitely get this arrest. So I'm lucky enough to have Judge Anderson with me, and she allows me to add 3 to my combat roll. So what I need now is I just need 3 or more on my d6 to complete the arrest. Now let's say I roll a 4. The arrest is successful. Rex Peters is taken down and he's taken off to meet probably a grisly and messy end. But what I do is I take the crime and the perp card and add that to my arrest pile. This continues with all the other players, and they take their turn in moving around the board and attempting to make arrests. When the round is finished, the perp and the crimes are replenished, so there's always 6 on the board. Action cards are dealt out and the next round starts, and that really is the game. It really is that simple, and it's great fun when you and your friends are vying against each other to make the arrest and ultimately win the game. And it can lead to some rather sticky moments when you don't know whether someone's going to stab you in the back, so that they can move in and make that arrest the next turn or in latter turns. A game can be completed in under an hour, so it's a relatively short game. There's no painting required, no 4-hour game time, no reading through masses of rule books, FAQs, errata, army books, etc. It really does hark back to a simpler time and is really a lot of fun. If you're a fan of Judge Dredd, you'll recognise a lot of the action cards and the stories and the items and the characters on those action cards from the Judge Dredd universe and also the 2000 AD comic book series. It's a really immersive game, and if like me you're a big fan of Judge Dredd, you'll really get a lot from this game. If you do get a chance to buy a copy, I would definitely recommend that you do so. It's a piece of both board gaming and comic book nostalgia, but it's also a great game as well. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different video. If you do have a copy and want to add your opinions on how fantastic you think the game is, just pop them in the comments section below. But as always, until next time, may your dice roll well, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye bye now.